Hello everyone. I wanted to go ahead and create 3 videos for you to better assist you with the midterm project. Um, Hopefully this will be beneficial. I'm using um, this example from inside the Blackboard course room, and this is when you click on the lessons and you'll see that it runs you through the different lesson folders. Here's the midterm project folder that you'd click on. And inside there, I gave a very detailed breakdown of part 1 and part 2 and part 3 instructions. But I understand that even with this, it may be a little overwhelming for some students. So this is going to represent the part 1 video, where I'm just going to go over this first part. Part 1 is located in McGraw-Hill Connect, so you have to have Connect and be registered in Connect in order to do this project. You're going to be reading a case study on Uber, and you'll assess the information, and what I'm going to do is take you inside of Connect first. So over to the left, you see Access McGraw-Hill Connect. And actually, I'll show you how to do it straight from, I didn't mean to do that. That's one way to do it, right? But let me take you in just from the folder. I don't know why I did it that way. Below the instructions, there is the direct link. So when you click here, you'll see that it takes you right to the assignment, the project. Now, this is the instructor view. So here's the student view. This is the view that you'll see. When you come in, you'll see it from this view. And understanding that since I'm looking from your view but I'm the instructor, there are some things that are not available in this mode that would be available in your viewpoint. So I understand that, for instance, when I try to go back in to make some changes, it may not necessarily let me do it because I'm not a student. But you'll see this, and it says read this Uber case study that covers chapters 1 to 3 and chapter 5 in your textbook. So you can use your physical textbook or your ebook. You will then answer multiple choice questions associated with each case phase by chapter, and you'll also have 1 to 2 essay questions that you should respond to in short answer form. You are not expected to write an essay. You're not expected to write multiple paragraphs. You can respond in a few sentences for some responses and maybe 1 paragraph for others. You might be able to respond in 1 sentence as long as you answer the question clearly in your own words. There are a total of 20 questions worth 60 points. So this makes up part 1 of the project. You'll scroll down and you'll see that you're in progress. You haven't answered any questions if you haven't. If you have, it'll tell you the progress. It tells you how many attempts that you have. So you have unlimited attempts. If this is submitted late, then it starts to deduct 5% per day that it's late. You can also check your work, and you'll see that feature available. So we'll scroll down, and I'll click continue, and you'll also see that you can check the references to know which chapter it's from, even though it says right here, and it'll give you the ebook if you don't have the paper book. So this one, they're randomized. So if you see right here, this is showing question 11, right? It's from the continuing case, chapter 1. And this part is focusing on the challenges that Uber's facing. And it's a real-world application, that's why it's called a case study, of management knowledge and skills designed to help you develop critical thinking ability and realize the practical power of sound managerial skills for solving problems in your job and career. So you're going to read this case and respond to the questions that follow. So here's the case, and they talk to you about how Uber got started, and it goes through the whole process. Then it talks to you about the challenges for Uber. And I want you to remember this because this factors into part 2 of your project. So in chapter 1, you learned about the 7 challenges to be an exceptional manager. And so you'll read through that and you'll see that here are the 7 challenges that Uber faced. And so you'll read all of those challenges. And then when you get here, it gives you your first multiple choice question. Uber's first challenge is managing for competitive advantage. What function of management is closely related to setting goals to remain competitive? Well, if you remembered in chapter 1, you learned about the functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and they also have operating. And so you're going to then click to see, well, managing for competitive advantage. Okay, that's a challenge. So which of these do you think that it would be? Managing for competitive advantage. What do you think it is? So you would click, and let's say you clicked, let's say you happen to click leading. I'm just going to click that. I'm not saying that's the answer, I'm just clicking it. Then you would go and you click next, and you would go to the next question because you've already read this. It just gives it to you in case you need a reference back up quickly so you don't have to scroll backwards. And it takes you to the next question. And it says, Uber stores every single ride it has provided and uses this data for other purposes, including surge pricing, driver notices, and so on. To which of the 7 challenges to be an exceptional manager is this activity most closely related? Remember, they showed you the 7 challenges above. So you then turn around and you say, I wonder which challenge that is. And maybe that's managing for, sorry you guys, that's my dog, managing for diversity. And so with that, give me a second. So with that, you would say that's challenge 2. So let's say you click that. Let's say that's what you said the answer is. You can check your work if you see that right there, right? So let's say I check your work and they said this is the last time you can check your work. So you only get one chance to check. So you can choose if you want to check it or not. So let's say I say, okay, and I check it and it says this shows what is correct or incorrect for the work you have completed so far. It does not indicate completion. So it shows that I got the answer correct. So now I can return to the question and I can now click, because there's nothing else below, I click next. And then it'll take me to the next question, the next multiple choice question for this. And it says, it's talking about the financial challenges since 2011, a lot of ethical and financial challenges, and which of Mintzberg's roles is most closely related to Uber's senior leadership's responsibility to fix problems the company is facing. And so if you go to your textbook and you look up Mintzberg's roles, right, and you can click on reference and say, okay, that definitely is in chapter 1. You can use the textbook or the ebook, and you can say, oh, which one is this? Oh goodness, it's ethical and financial. I don't know what that would be. I don't know. So let's just say that you had selected for this one. Let's just say you selected resource allocator for whatever reason. You can click check my work, right? Because it's only going to let you check it once for that question. And I see I got it wrong, right? So I didn't get it right. But if you notice, I can't then click something else, and I can't click anything else and then check my work. So now I'm going to have to just go with what I selected. So I'm just letting you know that that is how the check my work feature works. Okay. So you'll go through and you'll finally get to, here's another multiple choice. Travis Kalanick is known as an entrepreneur. Based on what you've learned about entrepreneurs, which of the following is most likely true about Kalanick? And you can look through and you can try to decide which one. He has a low-level action orientation, high ethical standards. He has a high tolerance for ambiguity. He has low self-confidence. He has external locus of control. Maybe it's this one. So let's say I check my work and I got it wrong. So it's like, well, I know that entrepreneurs don't have low self-confidence. And I can't check this again, remember? So I have to click return to question. So I have to then see, well, let me check my references. And I see it's also from chapter 1. So maybe I go to my physical textbook or my ebook to look up that section so I could try to figure it out, because it's not here. Remember, it's not going to be here in the case study. It's going to be in your textbook. So I'm going to have to try to figure out which one it is, right? And then once I select my answer, I'm going to click to the next one and scroll down, and then it's going to ask me my next question. There's looking at Uber's valuations recently dropped. If a manager at Uber is tracking the company's performance and comparing it to goals, this person would be performing which managerial function? So I'm tracking performance and I'm comparing it to goals. If you remember what we did, and there's only the functions of management, remember, are planning, organizing, leading, controlling, right? So I look and I see I have planning, organizing, leading, controlling, auditing. That's not one of the functions of management. So I know that's not the answer. So let's say I clicked on controlling. And then if I could check my answer if I'd like, because remember you get to check once per thing. And then I go to the next question. And scrolling down, there's an essay, and I'm sharing this part because it's important that you guys know. So with this one, there is, in the future part of the cumulative case, you're going to learn that they got rid of Uber's original CEO, the founder, and they replaced him with a new leader. What impact does this have on the company based on the 7 challenges to being an exceptional leader? Remember, you've got to look at so you can scroll back up in case you forget about the 7 challenges, right? Managing for competitive advantage, managing for information technology, managing for diversity, managing for globalization, managing for ethical standards, managing for sustainability, managing for happiness and meaning. And then all of these show in the ways in which Uber has experienced these challenges. You would then type your response. And so you understand that this is you say, okay, to focus, because sometimes people get really confused when they read a question that's lengthy, that's, more than one sentence. So, okay, now I know that the CEO has been replaced. Then I have to say, what impact does this have on the company, on Uber, based on the 7 challenges that I know are up here? So when I think about that, and I can look at all the ways, and if we got rid of one CEO, which we know that there's been some issues, right? Because you read about the various issues, right? So then you're like, okay, how can that impact? And which of the challenges do I see? So you could then briefly type your answer and say, oops. Or let's say you do it like this, and then if you want, you can turn around and you can create a bullet list, and you can list the various ways that, and you can do it using, circle, disc, square, whatever, right? You can then list the different ways, or you can type them out as as a sentence or a paragraph form. Doesn't matter. It does not have to be a full-on lengthy essay. It could be one or more sentences to really explain the impact this has on the company, right? As far as those challenges. When you're done with that, you click next. And with the essay questions, those questions are sent to me for grading. So I grade those. All the multiple choice questions, Connect auto grades them. So anyway, we go on, and you'll see that there's another question that's also an essay question, and it says, choose one of the 4 management functions and explain how a manager can use this function to address some of the challenges described in the case. So you can choose one of the 4 management functions. So we know we have planning, we have organizing, we have leading, and we have controlling, right? Those are the 4 management functions. You can choose any one of those 4 to address some of the challenges above, right? So, which of these challenges would you address using planning? And remember, if you watch my chapter 1 lecture video that's in the course room, if you attended seminar 1, I talked about those 4 functions of management. So, and then of course they're outlined in the textbook. So you can choose any one of those 4 to then explain how a manager can use that function to address one of these challenges, or a number of these challenges, however you want to look at it. All right. Once you've answered that, you click next, and you see that it saves. And you'll go down, and what you'll see now is you're in a new one. This is a new case, a new part of the case. And this part's going to focus on chapter 2. And so you can already see you've done part 1 of 3, right? So this is going to focus on chapter 2, management theory. And you're going to read the case and then answer the questions that follow. So it's going to take you in, and it's now taking you through the process of Uber's growth within the, where they were after the first 7 years. And then you start to see the issues and the scandals that came about in 2017. And so below, they describe Uber under the co-founder and CEO, Kalanick, who was with the company from 2010 to 2017. And then they describe Uber as it is now under their new leadership with their new CEO, who's been in that role since 2017. And as you'll read, you'll look for clues about the 2 CEOs' management philosophies, things that prevented Uber from learning, and things that helped Uber to become more of a learning organization. So, under the co-founder and first CEO, you can read about how Uber, the company, was under his leadership. Right? And you can see about the diversity numbers. They're as far as based on gender, based on racial diversity. And you can see about how he encouraged internal competition and the ways in which he did so. About the lack of trust in the organization, right? And you'll see that a former worker described a Game of Thrones political war, right? So you can see it was really intense. Then you can compare it to under its new leadership and what was done in the first 2 months, right? And what has evolved since in the new cultural norms that have taken place. And you can see the bolded words let you know that, you can see there's some growth, internally, right? So then you come down to the first multiple choice question, And it says one of the values that all employees have now under this new leadership model is regardless of their background, they need to feel welcomed, to be open to different approaches, and to come together to execute the best ideas. This is most closely related to which of the following? And these, you're like, oh, this is chapter 2 now, remember. So which of these theories is this most closely related to? Theory X, a management science, systems viewpoint, bureaucracy, total quality management. And you're like, you go and look in the textbook and you're like, wait a minute, okay, feel welcomed, open to different approaches, come together, execute best ideas. Oh gosh, I don't know, which one would this be? And so let's say you clicked on total quality management, because that's, you think of quality and you think of management. You click check my work. This is the only time you can do it for this question. You click and you find out you're right. Okay? So return to question. So that means now you can go to the next question. And the next question is going to still be under this same case. You'll scroll down and you'll answer the next question. So the first 2 months the new CEO's been in, he started meeting with the teams and employees across the globe to get their input on what they needed to repair the company, move forward, repair themselves, move forward. Assuming that he did not decide on a management style to utilize until after these observations, which a viewpoint would he be utilizing? So referring to chapter 2, you're like, okay, which of these would he be utilizing? I don't know. So let's say I click behavioral and I click check my work and I got it wrong. Oh my goodness. So now I can't use that feature again. So I'm going to have to click another response answer, right? So let's say I just click another response and then I submit, or I'm not submit, I go to next to get to my next question. It's still within the same case. I scroll down and here's my essay question. Compare and contrast the management styles of the two CEOs, the former one and the current one. How are they different? Do they share any similarities? Explain. Now, if you notice, there are actually 3 requirements or 4 requirements of you from this question. The first one is to compare and contrast the management styles of the two, right? So you would, how are they different? Do they share any similarities? And explain. So you're going to make sure that your response is going to talk about in the ways that they are different and the ways they are the same. What are their management styles? So we know that how Kalanick, how he managed, right? You got to read about that. And then you got to read about how the new CEO manages. So make sure that this one will probably be a couple of sentences, right? Nothing long, nothing lengthy. You'll then type in your response here and then click next. I, of course, will be notified that I need to then read and grade that. This now takes you to the next case study, which covers chapter 3. And you're going to be looking at the work environment and ethical responsibilities that Uber has faced. And you will read the case below, and you'll see in the ways in which how they treat their customers, regulators, the environment, and these are all under their first CEO, okay? And then you'll go down and it says, consider all of the following allegations which are more fully developed in later cases. So when you then see the change, right, or you start to see, not the change, you see in greater detail the treatment of employees and the treatment of drivers. So do you like the way Uber interacts with its internal and external stakeholders? So if you remember, you're like, remember, this is which chapter? 3. So you can look in your textbook. If you remember, customers, regulators, the environment, those are all external. Employees and the drivers would be internal. So those are the internal stakeholders versus the external stakeholders. Do you like how Uber interacts with them based on what you read? Do you think a change in managerial philosophy is needed? Yes or no? Their new CEOs promise to turn the company around, and one of their new norms is we do the right thing, period. Do you think that this CEO can turn that company around and change the company culture? You would then, right? That's what you're really thinking about. Now coming down here, gray ball, Uber's tool to evade legal authorities attempting to crack down on the company for violating local laws most significantly affects which general environment force. So you look through, and remember, and so you would have read this because you see what it is, all right? So let's say you're like, okay, well, which one? So let's say I click on this, and let's say I check my work. I only get one chance to check for that question, and it says I got it correct. So I return to question, and I click next. It's going to take me to my next question, which is another multiple choice, and it's reading. You're talking about Carroll's social responsibility pyramid in chapter 3, and it says Uber's gray ball may not have made it past which of the following stages, and so you're gonna have to click on which of the following stages do you think that that they didn't, right? So let's say I click on that, but whether you could check it or not, right? And then you go to the next question, and then it's going to take you down to another multiple choice. You answer that. You'll go through, you'll answer the next multiple choice question. Then they'll take you to an essay question. Assume you are Uber's new CEO. How can you promote ethics at the organization? All right. So you'll answer that question in one or more sentences. Click next. This now takes you to the Uber case, focusing on chapter 5, covering the principles related to planning and goals. And so with this, you'll see here's the case that you read below, and you'll read about their mission statement and how senior leadership took action in support of long-term plans, how they're expanding an innovation, and you'll read all of this, and whether or not they're talking about going into self-driving cars, and should Uber continue to invest in self-driving cars, right? So their former CEO had a question of what kind of brand do we want to be, and that represent which stage of the strategic management process. So you would answer that question, and then you can check your work, of course, click next, and then it'll take you to the next multiple choice question. Uber's expansion on the innovation front depends on its self-driving car plans. The implementation of this plan would be the responsibility of which of the following managers. And so you have to remember who executes on which level of strategic, tactical, and operational, right? So who implements that plan, you would click on that, and then you could check your work one time, then click next. And then it will take you to another multiple choice question that you'll answer, click next, and then you'll get to an essay. And the essay questions, what are Uber's long and short-term goals based on the case? Are these goals aligned? Now remember, the answer is here in the case, so you don't have to go far. You don't have to look in your textbook or anywhere else. It's right here in this case, and it gives you the answers. You go ahead and put the answer. What are their long-term and short-term goals based on the case? And then your next response would be if whether or not you believe the goals are aligned, right? You then would submit that, click next, and then I would know to grade that. And then you come down to another multiple choice question that's tied to the same case, right? And this is the last one. So you would then answer this last question, right? And so let's say I said, assume Uber planned to cut losses by 40% by withdrawing from countries like China and Singapore. A year has now passed since they've withdrawn, and the company determines that losses have actually increased, not decreased, but increased. Which step in the planning control cycle does Uber need to now execute? So you already know they've made a plan, and you're like, okay, define objectives, carry out the plan, control the direction, make the goal. You're like, let's see, what do they need to do? I don't know. Let's say I click control the direction and I click check my work. I get one chance at it and it says you got it right. So then I can return the question, and now I have my option. I can click save and exit if I was not done. I see I've done part 5 of 5. It shows the 20 questions. I click submit and it says you have 8 incomplete questions. I can visit the question map so I can see which ones I did not finish, right, that I skipped. I finished all of these, right? I did part 5 of 5. I skipped. I didn't finish all of those, so I can now go back in to now quickly finish those. So 12 of 20 questions were answered, which I meant I was 60% complete. So I can now go into those specific ones to now answer those questions. Now, once you show that you have all your questions done, you click submit, and then at that point, it would populate and Connect will grade all of your multiple choice questions. It will notify me to then grade your essay questions. Once you've submitted this, you're done with part 1. So with that, I'm going to end this video so that I can take you to part 2, which if you'll see part 2, if you go back to the midterm project folder in Blackboard, and I can then direct you to through part 2. Thank you.